Welcome to the Doug channel. Some of you are having too good of a day, so I thought I'd terrify you just a little bit with a great AI story. We're going to talk a little bit about AI. This is the future. Don't turn the channel. It's not going anywhere. It's always best to be educated about it. That's why we embrace it and talk about it. Here's Mark Andreessen on AI and censorship.
My concern, and this goes back to the censorship and political control of AI, is like 1,000 times more dangerous than censorship and political control of social media.
Let that sink in. What does it mean? Okay, we all know what censorship is of social media and normal media bias, right? Censorship, government goes like, I don't like the politics of that, they shut it down. Or an editor of all these liberal magazines, even like NPR, go, we're going to, skew everything to the left. Well, that can be done with AI. So I just want you to think of AI as a kind of an editor or a policeman or a traffic cop, okay, of all data in media. By the way, you're already using AI, don't you worry. If you get directions on your phone and you use Google Maps, or you get directions to guide your car anywhere and you're not using those old Thomas guide maps with all the pages, you're already using AI. It's AI that's giving you the directions and real-time updating them and saying in 100 feet, turn right or whatever. It's calculating where you told it to go, and it gives you intelligently the best directions. That's AI. It's already working. Okay, so now just picture if AI has a censorship liberal bias. People who write the code to the AI, you want them to not put political bias or censorship blocking certain information from your data.
Maybe 1,000,000 times more dangerous. Social media censorship and political control is very dangerous, but at least it's only like people talking to each other and communicating. The thing with AI is I think AI is going to be the control layer for everything in the future, right? So I think AI is going to be the control layer for how the healthcare system works. I think it's going to be the control layer for how the education system works. It's going to be the control layer for how the government works.
Okay, there you go. It's the control layer for how the healthcare system works. Any of you guys use the healthcare system? It is going to be AI is going to control the healthcare. It's just going to be put in the hands of robots. And my question, but this is the same thing with all tools. It's just like a gun. Okay, guns are a tool. Guns in the hands of a good person is a good thing. You don't have to fear it. You have a Second Amendment right. So don't go and just because AI is a different kind of gun, it's a digital gun, don't fear it. It depends on who wields it, who is the brains behind AI that would cause us concerns. And yes, I have concerns because probably about 90% of the AI programmers are liberals. They're going to do to it what they did with social media. Anyways, it's going to control healthcare, education, banking. And so we want to make sure that there's no political censorship or bias in the AI. And by the way, you guys know I'm big fans of Elon Musk. Elon Musk's AI called Grok is the least politically biased AI in the world. So he's probably going to win that war too.
And so in the future, when you deal with a healthcare system or with the education system or with the government, you're going to be dealing with an AI. And so if that AI is, call it what you want, woke, biased, censored, politically controlled, like you are in like a hyper Orwellian, China style social credit system nightmare. Right, absolute nightmare. And this goes directly to Elon's argument, which is at the core of this, what you have to do is you have to train the AI to lie. And it's just like, if you wanted to create the ultimate dystopian world, you'd have a world where everything is controlled by an AI that's been programmed to lie. Like, it's hard to imagine things getting worse than that. And the precondition, this hasn't rolled all the way out yet because AI is still new and it's not in charge of, it's not being put in control of everything. But like, this is where things are headed. And so it's like, I think vitally important that this not happen. My hope is that the culture changes, the case studies, and all the stuff we already just talked about, but all the stuff that this new administration might do. My hope is that this all gets kind of peeled back and thrown out into the sunlight, and people writ large come to really understand this, and people don't stand for it, and this doesn't happen. But like this has to be fought. Like this will happen by default unless people fight it.
And that's why we're bringing up this podcast, because we do have to fight for it, guys. This is going to be future big technology ground. I'll give you an example of AI lying. GPT, there's the Microsoft AI. You would ask it, it would say, you'd say like, show me a Civil War general. And so because the AI was programmed to do DEI, diversity, forced race preferences, it would pick create a black general, for the South, for which there obviously probably wouldn't be many, or even an Asian. They'd put in an Asian general for the South in the Civil War. If you asked it to create a image, it would do that. And forgive me, but I found another video. I didn't want to break out a whole separate episode just because we're on the topic of free speech. This is Senator Mike Lee talking to Jonathan Turley.
We never had that debate during COVID, not a robust debate of the masks, the 6-foot rule, natural immunities. That's the cost of free speech. It has a direct impact on American citizens.
Professor Turley, to what extent should government-funded institutions and government-funded non-profit organizations be involved in defining and combating misinformation and disinformation?
I would put that near, if not at zero. Many of the terms we use today actually were used at the beginning of the Republic when the First Amendment was designed. These are not new arguments. Free speech is something that's easier to behold at a distance. But when you ask people, you talk about the McCarthy period, and they're horrified. And then you say, well, how about the censoring, blacklisting, throttling today? And they go, oh, well, that's different. We have to fight disinformation. These are the same voices. They've been with us for ages. They're making the same arguments. Everyone uses as an excuse that this is why I should be able to silence my neighbors. And it costs not just politically. When you talk about COVID, I spoke at the University of Chicago, and most of the people that signed the Great Barrington Statement were there. And I asked many of these scientists who have been vindicated in many of their views, how many of you have been restored to your positions? How many of you that were fired were invited back? Zero. And the point I'm only raising is when we talk about the cost of free speech, we never had that debate during COVID, not a robust debate of the masks, the 6-foot rule, natural immunities. That's the cost of free speech. It has a direct impact on American citizens.
So that creates a good picture of the grave risks involved concerning the long-term consequences of allowing and even encouraging increased collaboration between government entities, big tech firms, and academic institutions. Insofar as they can do what Ms. Hemingway described a moment ago, of creating a kind of a collusive understanding and agreement in advance, we're all going to agree that this is the truth, right? What are the long-term consequences of that happening, that kind of collusion between things like academic institutions, government entities, and government-funded entities, and big tech firms?
Yeah, that's something that I think really has to be kept in mind. We've had anti-free speech movements in our history. We've never seen anything like this one. We've never seen a coalition of corporations, academia, the media, the government join together in this way. And it succeeded to an extent that I find truly chilling. And they've had a setback. They've lost X. Apparently Meta is stepping back from some of its censorship. And so they're going old school. They're turning to the EU. They're turning to countries like Brazil to start to use government power. And this fight is just beginning.
You described what I think a lot of Americans totally understand, which is stuff goes back to the 1790s. It's not as though modern technology has presented us with purely unique sui generis questions. There are some challenges that come up, but the fundamental question of the government's ability to censor, those legal issues haven't changed. There's nothing about the technology that obliterates or creates a carve-out from the First Amendment.
You could really see how it can backfire and why we have to get ahead of this stuff now, so I'm just calling it out. No censorship in AI is what we're for. I'm Doug.